Welcome back to Snetterton, everybody. We've got our second of 3 races coming up for you for the Focus Cup Championship in what are slightly damp conditions out there on circuit now. We've had clouds over the circuit all day, and some of the grey clouds just passed straight through. However, the last one that passed through in one of the supporting races that we've just had dropped some of its water on us, so it's a damp track out there now. I'm not saying it's wet. In places there might be a little bit of spray, but on the whole it's greasy. It's the one conditions the drivers don't like, because it's not wet, it's not dry, it's sort of in between, if that makes sense. And that's what people don't like. Now, this grid is formed from the finishing positions of the race earlier on, albeit the grid is reversed in blocks of 6 in reality. So 1st to 6th get reversed. So if you finish 6th, you'll start 1st. If you win the race, you start 6th. Then it's the same 7th to 12th get reversed. 13th to 18th get reversed. 19th to 24th get reversed in their batches. So Class 1, top 6 get reversed. Then in Class 2, top 6 get reversed. Changeable conditions, blustery out there, very grey skies, the odd little break in the cloud, but it is going to forecast really. If anything, it's probably actually slightly drier than was originally forecast. It was due to be a miserable day, but it's not that bad. We've had the odd little sprinkle here and there, but when it has come down, it really has come down on occasions. We'll guide you through the grid when the cars head off on their formation lap. This is another 15-minute race that we've got. Jonathan Baker claimed victory earlier on today, and that was his first win of the 2025 championship season. But of course, if he wants to make it another win, he's going to have to do it from what will be 6th on the grid. So let's guide you through that grid then. The way that they line up is as follows. Pole position goes the way of Simon Watts, and alongside him is Craig Appleton. It's the reigning champion and double back-to-back champion Lewis Clark that sits down row number 2 with Leo Panayiotou alongside him. In row 3 of the grid, it's the 81 car of Ian Mitchell alongside the race winner from earlier on today, Jonathan Baker. Simon Waugh and Simon Walton line up on row number 4. Those are the last of the cars in Class 1 for the ST250 petrol engine cars. The next row and the rest of the grid is all based on the TDCI cars. Pole position for that in reality for the diesel class, Class 2, Ian Graham alongside Darren Rickaby. And row 2 for that is Ian Howard and Craig Ballantyne. Then as we move on to the next row of the grid, so it's row 3 for the diesels, which is row 7 overall, it's going to be Mark McCann and Ali Topley, who claimed another win in Class 2 earlier on, before we then see Adam Winter lining up alongside Gary Mitchell on what will be the 8th row of the grid. As we head on to the next row, it's Andrew Freeman, who has got Cameron Ferodo McKenzie for company, and it's Richard Hall and Simon Langford, who made good progress in the race earlier on today, who lines up in 20th position. Sarah Hall is there on the inside of the next row of the grid, which is row number 11, and she's got Matthew Croft alongside. Then it's Kat Cray and Shiv Sapra that are next up, with the penultimate row of the grid being Ben Pemberton and Abby Walton, and at the back of the grid is Makish Parekh, having his first weekend of racing in the Focus Cup Championship, or Mick Parekh as he's known. So that's the way that they line up. So Ali Topley claiming a win in Class 2, the diesel class earlier on. That means that's 4 wins for him so far this year. Jonathan Baker winning the race overall for the far more powerful Class 1 machines, the petrol engine cars, which were tested in the championship last year by Simon Walton, the man behind the Focus Cup, and were introduced as a new class for this year. So they're petrol engined, 300 horsepower. There's 8 of those cars on the grid currently, more of them in build up in the northeast of England at the moment at the Swan Flight garages and the Focus Cup HQ, whereas the diesel engine cars remain as the mainstay of the championship in terms of numbers. But they're no longer the exclusive class. They produce from their 2-litre TDCI engines about 180 brake horsepower, but good torque from them, of course, because it's a diesel engine, so about 310 pounds-feet of torque. The petrol engine car has more torque. It's got about 365 pounds-feet of torque, but of course it's got a lot more brake horsepower, another 50% more horsepower than the diesel cars. So lots of weaving being done from side to side to try and build a little bit of temperature into the control Nankang tyres that all of these cars run. And then the colours then, just to give you them, it's Simon Watts, who's sort of yellow, blue and white, that will start on pole position. The light green and black car of Craig Appleton will sit alongside. It's sort of blue and purple really for Lewis Clark on row number 2, alongside the white car with the Union Jack flashes down the side of it, Leo Panayiotou. And it's red and black and white for Ian Mitchell alongside the blue and the lighter blue car of Jonathan Baker. That's in Class 1. In Class 2, it's green and grey for Ian Gray and the number 27 car that starts at the head of the diesel classes in reality, and alongside it's the white and Union Jack liveried car of Darren Rickaby. Row 2 of the grid, it's yellow, it's got grey, it's got silver, it's got white, Ian Howard alongside the red and black and white car of Craig Ballantyne, and the third row of the grid for that is silver and red for Mark McCann alongside the white and the yellow and the black car, which is Ali Topley. So that will be one to watch out for, Ali Topley. So he's been the man who has largely had some good pace in that category this year. If it's not him, it's Mark McCann, and the two of them have been pretty consistent so far this year, having finished on the podium in most of the races. In the case of Mark McCann, I think he's podiumed in every single race so far this year. He's had thirds, he's had seconds, he's had wins. So there we go, Simon Watts lining up in the CAD Capture car on pole position, and let's see what he might be able to do. Can he get himself onto the podium for the first time this year? Fourth place is the best in which he's finished, which was the first of the two races that we had at Brands Hatch, but he has not been on the podium as yet so far this year. Can he get himself there? Could he possibly get himself a win for this year? Paul Sitter looks slightly above the line, doesn't he? So he's a little bit forward from where he ought to be. And you can see he is a little way away from his mark. So is that going to be deemed as starting out of position? I'm not sure. For the moment, we're just waiting for the rest of the field to line its way up. There's a 2-row gap between the petrol engine cars Class 1 and the diesel engine cars Class 2. 5-second board is held aloft. We've got 15 minutes on the clock. Simon Watts trying to launch the car off pole position in damp conditions. The lights go out now, and it doesn't look as though it's a great start from the pole sitter. It's a brilliant start from Lewis Clark from the second row of the grid, who's going to rocket his way through from third place, I think, to potentially pick up the lead when they get up towards Ritchie's corner. He is just going to have his nose ahead, and it is Lewis Clark that leads the way from Simon Watts in second place as Craig Appleby tries to go around the outside to see if he can hang on to third place, but he's then on the outside line as they head down in towards the braking area for the Wilson hairpin for the first time. The Class 2 cars getting away, of course, and they are just a couple of rows back, so there'll always be a gap between those two. In the early stages, the leader of Class 2 is going to be Ian Graham. It was the green car with the grey flashes down the side, but everybody, I think, is safely through the first couple of corners, and a big sideways moment for the pole sitter Simon Watts, who plants his foot into the floor of the car to try and catch the spin in the front-wheel drive car, and lots of arm twirling kept it just about under his spell, but that's really split the pack now and has allowed Lewis Watts the most enormous lead between himself and the car that's in second place, which is going to be Ian Mitchell, who's there in second place. Poor old Simon Watts, yeah, he gathered up the moment, didn't he? But it was a very lurid moment where he got straight across the nose of Ian Mitchell. Ian Mitchell, I think, was probably the only car that actually got through with all of that. I've just lost one place there, which is quite staggering considering how sideways he was at one point. But say, good car control from Simon Watts, just those cold rears catching him out. But you can see them queuing up behind him, including the car of Simon Warp, who's been a long-time competitor in the Focus Cup Championship, going right the way back to its first iteration, I think, the first year that we had the Focus Cup. I'm sure Simon was in the entry list for that one. But you can see already, big gap has been opened up. Just looking back, Simon Ward, did he race? Yes, he did, yeah, in the 2019 Focus Cup, which was the first year that we had it. And for Class 2, the squabble is on. Ian Graham is under enormous pressure from Ali Topley, who's going to pick up the lead in the Powermax car in Class 2 in the early stages. So Ali Topley doing what Ali has largely done so far this year and leads from the front in Class 2. The rest of the hordes of Class 2 machines now just picking their way out of Brundle and Nelson, including that Army Motorsport liveried car of Richard Hall, the green car with the orange flashes to it. He runs a little bit wide coming out of the bomb hole beyond the red and white painted curbs. And there's also a bit of a moment on turning there towards Coram for Cameron Ferraro Mackenzie, who just about again gathered it up as the rear tyres still aren't fully up to temperature. Oh, problems, I'm afraid, and that's Simon Langford that has stopped. That is heading down the Bentley straight, where he's pulled the car off to the right-hand side of the circuit. And that will just be covered with localised yellows. I don't quite think there's enough of a gap in the barriers there to get him fully out of harm's way, but he's on a straight and he's right up to the barrier, so he's about as safe as he could have parked it. So Lewis Clark leads the way by nearly 3.6 seconds after the first lap of racing from Ian Mitchell in second place. Simon Watts in third place, just coming round through the point of the circuit where he lost control and had that squirrely moment a lap ago. with a bit more temperature in the tyres. There's no such worries for him this time through. He's got the green car, which will be Craig Appleton, not that far behind him. And then nose to tail will be the next couple of places, which will be Jonathan Baker, who is feeling the pinch a little bit from Leo Panayiotou, who completes the top 6. Leo having lost 2 places in the early stages of this race. The lead of Class 2, say 6 places gained for Alistair Topley. He's up into 8th position overall now and leading the charge of the Class 2 machines from Ian Graham and Craig Ballantyne. But onto the Bentley Straight comes this fight for what is 3rd and 4th overall. Craig Appleton looking to see what he can do. We haven't seen Craig in all of the rounds so far this year. Donington didn't do Silverstone, did at Brands Hatch. He was quick, he was on the podium in the first race that he's had. But he's coming under big pressure from the race 1 winner, which is Jonathan Baker, who tries around the outside at Brundle, gives him the inside line for Nelson, and the race 1 winner makes it through, place gained. So he'll now be up into 4th position, and will now be setting his sights on the next of the cars up the road, which will be the pole-sitting car on the reverse grid. Remember, they get reversed in batches of 6, so Simon Watts finished 6th in the first race, so he started from pole in this one, and his yellow and blue and white car is already starting to come under pressure as they head in towards the braking area for Murray's as we get to the end of lap number 2, and already we are 1/3 of the way through the race. We squeezed 7 laps out of the race earlier on, the 15-minute allocation. Slightly damper conditions, not by much at the moment now. It has dried up a little bit. What's the fastest lap we had in race number 1? It was a 2-minute 13.480. Well, 2-minute 15.571 is the fastest lap we've seen on the first of the flying laps, and that has come from the car of Ian Mitchell. There's number 44, which is Gary Mitchell. He's just working his way over the start-finish line. Alistair Topley, the Class 2 race leader, heads towards Ritchie's corner, followed by the green car, which will be Ian Graham. Ian Graham under pressure from the car that's behind him, and that's going to be Craig Ballantyne. See the battles all the way round through the order, including Cameron Ferrero-Mackenzie, the number 8 car there. Had a brilliant start in the race earlier on today, made really good progress in the first lap, and then sort of dropped back a little bit as others got to grips with the tricky conditions earlier. And the number 8 car is at the tail end of that little squabble that's going on at the moment. He's down in 15th position overall, that'll be 9th in Class 2 at this stage. Graham, running 2nd in Class 2, is feeling the pinch from Craig Ballantyne, the number 49 that sits behind. Can he do anything about it as they head in towards the braking area for Agostini? Well, Craig Ballantyne is too far away. However, Ian Graham outbrakes himself, runs a little bit wide, and that's going to open the door for Craig Ballantyne to work his way through. He's got the inside line through the exit and is through and ahead already, so that's up to 2nd now in Class 2 for Craig Ballantyne. 26 points that would net him if he can finish where he is. For Ian Graham, that little small mistake didn't just cost him 1 place, it cost him 2 places, because Darren Rickaby took the opportunity at the wheel of the ABS back car to wiggle his way through as well. Ian Graham trying to fight back as they head up towards Williams, throws one up the inside of Darren Rickaby, who might be forced a little bit wide here. Darren Rickaby is trying to stick with Ian Graham, and also Mark McCann's going to try and make it 3 wide by the look of things, so they head down to the bottom section of the Bentley Straight. It is going to be Darren Rickaby who is, in fact they've both lost out. Mark McCann has had the better exit. It's the number 64 car that's now at the head of that little train. So Mark McCann moves through, Darren Rickaby moves through, and Ian Graham, despite trying it, it didn't quite work. And now he's got the next of the cars right with him, which is going to be the number 37 car of Ian Howard. That's the yellow car with the black flashes down the side of it. So great little fight this is in Class 2. Lewis Clark still leading the race overall by 2.6 seconds, but in 2nd place Ian Mitchell has just set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 14.201. That for the moment will give him an extra 10 championship points if he can secure the fastest lap. And that is now getting down to the kinds of time, that's within 9/10 of a second of the fastest lap from earlier on today, so track conditions certainly improving again. Panayiotou having gained a place on that lap. He's now through and ahead of the Centaur green car, which is in the hands of Craig Appleton. So that's a change for position there. For the lead of the race, Ian Mitchell is trying to close up on our race leader. and was 0.8 of a second quicker than him last time through. And in Class 2, we've still got this fantastic battle going on. Darren Rickaby has actually lost a further place to the yellow car, which has gone through now, which is Ian Howard. Trying to re-attack as they head up towards the braking area for Palmer. Place gained for Ian Howard. The big winner on that last lap was Mark McCann, wasn't he? Who worked his way through up to what would be 3rd in Class 2 at this stage. So now the big battle in the train of cars is for 4th in Class 2. Ian Howard trying to hunt down Ian Graham, who's ahead of him. And you've got Darren Rickaby is next up. And then we'll have Adam Winter not far behind, followed by Gary Mitchell, and then it will be Cameron Ferrero-Mackenzie, I think, at the tail end of that little train, if the blue and white car is still there, and he is. In fact, Cameron Ferrero-Mackenzie has got another car queuing up behind him, which I think might be Andrew Freeman, car number 78. So it's good squabbles there. Back to Class 1, and Leo Paniotu is making further progress, because he is now going to be up into, I think, 4th position at the end of this particular lap. So he is now ahead of the car of Simon Watts, who has had a poorer lap this time through. So through and over the start-finish line comes Leo Paniotu in 4th position. Under attack from Simon Watts, but has just overtaken him, so will look to try and pull away. Simon Watts losing 2 places on that lap, because Jonathan Baker went through and Leo Paniotu went through. And now for Simon Watts, he's still in danger of losing a further place as Craig Appleton tries to sneak up the inside as they head in towards the Wilson hairpin. 5 minutes to go. Pole sitter dropping down through the order, which is not unsurprising in the format of that, you keep reversing batches of top 6. So Simon Watts is still ahead of where he finished in the previous race, because he's 5th in this race, having finished 6th in the race earlier on today. And further down through the order, squabbles going on. That's Cat Gray, who is trying to keep Ben Pemberton at bay, but Ben sneaks through on that lap. So that'll be probably a couple of places gained from Ben Pemberton, because I think he was outside of the top 20 at the beginning of this lap, and I think he'll probably be in 20th position by the end of it. But all the way down through the order, Abby Walton looking to try and apply the pressure to Matthew Croft. They've got the race leader looking to try and close in on them as well. Have they? Or is that Simon Moore? No, Simon Moore is a long way down through the order. He's diving for the pit lane, so Simon Moore dives for the pit lane at number 22. So that's one of the petrol engine Class 1 cars heading for the pit lane. As over the start-finish line comes this huge train of cars. Shiv Sapra, followed by Matthew Croft, followed by Abby Walton. There's Abby Walton in this race. She is running something like 14th in class. Might be up to 13th if she can pull the move in towards the Wilson hairpin, but Matthew Croft is too far away, outbrakes himself a little bit, and that might be what Abby Walton needs to squeeze her way through. But the Swanflight car, I don't quite think is going to do it on the run down in towards Palmer. So Matthew Croft just about hangs on to the position, but all the way, right the way through the order, squabbles going on. Great way to go racing the Focus Cup. Don't own the car, you literally hire the car for the weekend. There's a set fee depending on the class that you want to go into. The Class 1 cars and the Class 2 cars. The Class 2 are slightly cheaper. If you are wanting to come in to try the championship for the first time, they often have special offers on for new drivers to the championship to come in. And it's a set fee for the weekend, which includes testing, it includes the supply of the car with tyres, with diesel, with the entry fee. All of the mechanics come along that sort your car out for you as well. There's basic hospitality at all of the circuits as well. Good camaraderie as well, it's fair to say. And the only other thing then you need to budget for is if you damage the car. But there are, again, ways that you can take out. I think insurance is the wrong way to word it, but there's an arrangement you can come to with Focus Cup that you would pay a fee for some sort of cover, damage cover on the car. There's still a small excess you need to pay if you damage it, but then at least if there is more damage than the excess, then that's scooped up by the championship. So it's a great way to go racing, and it's sort of, it's a very affordable way to go racing. You know your budgetary costs for the weekend because they're all fixed. So Lewis Clark still leads. He leads by 2.3 seconds from Ian Mitchell in second place. But Ian Mitchell again last time through, fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 13.825. So that's about 0.4 of a second shy of the fastest lap that we had from race number 1. The fight we're looking at the moment is for 5th and 6th place, which is Simon Watts still under this pressure from Craig Appleton, who can't quite try and squeeze his way through. Craig manages to probably apex Williams that little bit better. Abby Walton also sticking her elbows out. That's going to be a place gain for her over Ben Pemberton. And Matthew Croft is the next target that she's going to want to try and work her way past. So it's 19th and 20th, I think, that are fighting away together. Cat Gray is just off the back of those by the look of things. Shiv Sapra, I think, is in the mix somewhere as well. There's Shiv Sapra just going through shot now. And is Abby Walton going to sneak through and ahead of Matthew Croft? Well, she had a really good little stab heading in towards Ritchie's corner. I think she's going to have a better run coming out of Ritchie's, which will afford at the inside line heading in towards the braking area for the Wilson hairpin. But again, no, she can't quite get there. But again, Matthew Croft just runs that little bit wide, and that's the opportunity. Through goes Abby Walton. Matthew Croft losing out, and might lose out a further place to Ben Pemberton. So our race leader, with a minute to go, is starting to feel the pinch a little bit. It was a 2 minutes 14.2 almost for Lewis Clark last time through. It was a 2 minutes 13.3 from the second place car of Ian Mitchell last time through to set the fastest lap. So the lead advantage is down to just 1.5 seconds as they head on to the start of their final lap of the race. This is lap number 7. We've got 7 laps out of the 15 minutes earlier on. And as you can see on the graphic there, last 2 laps on the trot, Lewis Clark, the race leader, has been slower than the charging Ian Mitchell by 0.2 of a second on lap number 5, and as you say, by 0.8 of a second last time through. So the gap has really come down between the pair of them. Has Lewis Clark got anything in reserve to try and push hard to grab another win? We've already seen him claim wins at the opening round at Donington Park. He also claimed a win at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit last time through. Ian Mitchell claimed a race win in one of the Silverstone races. They've got traffic to deal with as well, which is Sarah Hall, who moves neatly out of harm's way and allows the leading pair to go through as she heads through Williams. But for Ian Mitchell, he'll pick up a toe from the race leader. Not sure they're going to catch any more traffic before the start-finish line. There's some just up the road, but I don't quite think they're going to get there in time. So down in towards Brundle and Nelson for the last time. They'll flick their way through the left-hander, then up towards the right-hander. And for Lewis Clark, he'll be looking to try and maintain the lead advantage in this championship, having finished in 4th place earlier on today, which is still a good haul of points for him. It's still 21 points towards the championship. He wants to try and make sure that he can gain the maximum 30 this time through, but Ian Mitchell is pushing hard. However, this is the final corner they're coming up to now. The clock has ticked to 0, and Lewis Clark is cleanly off the corner, which should allow the Rotronics backed car to take the checkered flag and claim what for Lewis Clark is going to be his 2nd win of the season. His 3rd win of the season. He comes through to claim the win. Lewis Clark wins the way with Ian Mitchell in 2nd position. And 3rd should be Jonathan Baker, the race 1 winner. We've still got a fight going on between Simon Watts and Craig Appleton towards the checkered flag. They've had pretty much a race-long battle, haven't they, in reality? There's Jonathan Baker. He looks rather pleased, doesn't he, coming through to finish in 3rd place. Leo Paniotto 4th. Simon Watts chased all the way by Craig Appleton for 5th and 6th place. 7th place should be the leader of Class 2, which is the diesel category. And it looks as though Ali Topley is on course to make it, what will that be, win number 5 of the championship season, because he won the opening round at Donington Park. He won 2 races at Brands Hatch last time out. He won the race earlier on today in Class 2 for the diesel engine cars, and it looks as though it's going to be a further win in the TDCI engine machines for Ali Topley, who is the force to be reckoned with in Class 2 so far this year. He heads up towards the braking area for Murray's for the final time, and then can work his way up towards what will be the checkered flag. He's eased things off quite substantively on this last lap of the race, and he'll come through and claim the win. So that's exactly what he would have wanted. As for 2nd in that category, though, it should be Craig Ballantyne fighting away with Mark McCann. Ian Graham should be next up. So here they come over the start-finish line. Yes, it's just Mark McCann, is it, from Craig Ballantyne? Which way round did that happen? No, by 78 thousandths of a second it was Craig Ballantyne from Mark McCann. And then Ian Graham comes through and over the start-finish line. He'll be next up, but chased all of the way to that start-finish line by the hard-charging Ian Howard, who had a busy old race. And then Darren Rickaby is next up, followed by Adam Winter, Cameron Ferreira-McKenzie. And then it's going to be Andrew Freeman from Gary Mitchell, number 44 car next up, and then Richard Hall. So that was a good little squabble all the way through the diesel category. There wasn't a great deal to choose from let's say 4th all the way through to something like 10th in Class 2. That was a real close battle between them all. And of course, they've got it all to do a little bit later on as well, because this weekend that sees them having 3 races rather than, as we are used to, just having the 2. And that's largely because one of the races at Donington Park didn't take place. It was aborted on a couple of occasions with a mixture of incidents and some inclement weather then as well, and therefore it's not a replay of the Donington race. In other words, if you were entered at Donington, you come in this one, and if you weren't entered at Donington, you're not allowed. No, it's anybody here this weekend gets an extra race, so that we can make sure that we end up with the same number of championship rounds than were originally scheduled. And that race will be based on, our next race later on today for the Focus Cup will be based on the finishing results of this race. So we will see them as per these finishing positions, which we can confirm for you now. It is a win for Lewis Clark by just 0.3 of a second, as it was in the end, from the car in second place, which was Ian Mitchell, and Jonathan Baker makes it 2 podiums out of 2, one of them being a win, but third in race number 2. Leo Panayiotou was there in 4th place, ahead of Simon Watson. Craig Appleton had a brilliant battle for 5th and 6th place, and as the top lead was the first of the Class 2 cars home in 7th from Craig Ballantyne and Mark McCann, who complete the Class 2 podium in reality. Ian Graham completes the top 10, and then just outside of the top 10 in 11th place, that's where we see the car of Darren Rickaby. Adam Winter was next up, and then it was going to be Ian Howard ahead of Cameron Ferrero-McKenzie. Andrew Freeman completes the top 15. Gary Mitchell was next up ahead of Richard Hall, Abby Walton, Shiv Sapra and Ben Pemberton complete the top 20. Just outside of the top 20, next up was Matthew Croft ahead of Kat Gray, and she was the last car on the lead lap. Sarah Hall finished in 23rd position, and it was Mick Perek who was there in 24th as the last of the finishers. And that's it for the Focus Cup Championship. We'll be back with our 3rd and final race later on today. That will be around about 5:45. So from Snetterton, we'll say goodbye until later on today.